Arthashastra by Chanakya, also known as Kautilya. Book 1. Chapter 1. The Life of a King. Om. Salutation to Shukra and Brihaspati. This Arthashastra is made as a compendium of almost all the Arthashastras, which, in view of acquisition and maintenance of the earth, have been composed by ancient teachers. Of this work, the following are the contents by sections and books. Book 1. Concerning Discipline, the End of Sciences, Association with the Aged, Restraint of the Organs of Sense, the Creation of Ministers, the Creation of Counselors and Priests, Ascertaining by Temptations Purity or Impurity in the Character of Ministers, the Institution of Spies, Protection of Parties for or against one's own cause in one's own state, Winning over the factions for or against an enemy's cause in an enemy's state, the business of council meeting, the mission of envoys, protection of princes, the conduct of a prince kept under restraint, treatment of a prince kept under restraint, the duties of a king, duty towards the harem, personal safety. Book 2. The duties of government superintendents, formation of villages, division of land, construction of forts, buildings within the fort, the duty of the chamberlain, the business of collection of revenue by the collector general, the business of keeping up accounts in the office of accountants, detection of what is embezzled by government servants out of state revenue, examination of the conduct of government servants, the procedure of forming royal writs, the superintendent of the treasury, examination of gems that are to be entered into the treasury, conducting mining operations and manufacture, the superintendent of gold, the duties of the state goldsmith in the high road, the superintendent of storehouse, the superintendent of commerce, the superintendent of forest produce, the superintendent of the armory, the superintendent of weights and measures, measurement of space and time, the superintendent of tolls, the superintendent of weaving, the superintendent of agriculture, the superintendent of liquor, the superintendent of slaughterhouse, the superintendent of prostitutes, the superintendent of ships, the superintendent of cows, the superintendent of horses, the superintendent of elephants, the superintendent of chariots, the superintendent of infantry, the duty of the commander-in-chief, the superintendent of passports, the superintendent of pasture lands, the duty of revenue collectors, spies in the guise of householders, merchants, and ascetics, the duty of a city superintendent. Book 3. Concerning Law, determination of forms of agreements, determination of legal disputes, concerning marriage, division of inheritance, buildings, non-performance of agreements, recovery of debts, concerning deposits, rules regarding slaves and laborers, cooperative undertakings, rescission of purchase and sale, resumption of gifts and sale without ownership, robbery, defamation, assault, gambling and betting and miscellaneous. Book 4. Removal of thorns, protection of artisans, protection of merchants, remedies against national calamities, suppression of the wicked living by foul means, detection of youths of criminal tendency by ascetic spies, seizure of criminals on suspicion or in the very act, examination of sudden death, trial and torture to elicit confession, protection of all kinds of government departments, fines in lieu of mutilation of limbs, death with or without torture, sexual intercourse with immature girls, atonement for violating justice. Book 5. Conduct of Courtiers, concerning the awards of punishments, replenishment of the treasury, concerning subsistence to government servants, the conduct of a courtier, time-serving, consolidation of the kingdom and absolute sovereignty. Book 6. The source of sovereign states, the elements of sovereignty, concerning peace and exertion. Book 7. The end of sixfold policy, the sixfold policy, determination of deterioration, stagnation, and progress, the nature of alliance, the character of equal, inferior, and superior kings, forms of agreement made by an inferior king, neutrality after proclaiming war or after concluding a treaty of peace, marching after proclaiming war or after making peace, the march of combined powers, considerations about marching against an assailable enemy and a strong enemy, causes leading to the dwindling greed and disloyalty of the army, considerations about the combination of powers, the march of combined powers, agreement of peace with or without definite terms, and peace with renegades, peace and war by adopting the double policy, the attitude of an assailable enemy, friends that deserve help, agreement for the acquisition of a friend or gold, agreement of peace for the acquisition of land, agreement for undertaking a work, considerations about an enemy in the rear, recruitment of lost power, measures conducive to peace with a strong and provoked enemy, the attitude of a conquered enemy, the attitude of a conquered king, making peace and breaking it, the conduct of a Madhyama king, of a neutral king, and of a circle of states. Book 8. Concerning Vices and Calamities. The aggregate of the calamities of the elements of sovereignty. Considerations about the troubles of the king and his kingdom. The aggregate of the troubles of men, the group of molestations, the group of obstructions, and the group of financial troubles, the group of troubles of the army, and the group of troubles of a friend. Book 9. The work of an invader. The knowledge of power, place, time, strength, and weakness, the time of invasion, the time for recruiting the army, the form of equipment, the work of arraying a rival force, considerations of annoyance in the rear, remedies against internal and external troubles, consideration about loss of men, wealth and profit, internal and external dangers, persons associated with traitors and enemies, doubts about wealth and harm, and success to be obtained by the employment of alternative strategic means. Book 10. Relating to war, encampment, march of the camp, protection of the army in times of distress and attack, forms of treacherous fights, encouragement to one's own army, the fight between one's own and enemy's armies, battlefields, the work of infantry, cavalry, chariots and elephants, distinctive array of troops in respect of wings, flanks and front, distinction between strong and weak troops, battles with infantry, cavalry, chariots and elephants, the array of the army like a staff, a snake, a circle or in detached order, the array of the army against that of an enemy. Book 11. The conduct of corporations, causes of dissension, secret punishment. Book 12. Concerning a powerful enemy. The duties of a messenger, battle of intrigue, slaying the commander-in-chief, and inciting a circle of states, spies with weapons, fire and poison, destruction of supply of stores and of granaries, capture of the enemy by means of secret contrivances or by means of the army, and complete victory. Book 13. Strategic means to capture a fortress, sowing the seeds of dissension, enticement of kings by secret contrivances, the work of spies in a siege, the operation of a siege, restoration of peace in a conquered country. Book 14. Secret means to injure an enemy, wonderful and delusive contrivances, remedies against the injuries of one's own army. Book 15. The plan of a treatise, paragraphical divisions of this treatise. Such are the contents of this science. There are on the whole 15 books, 150 chapters, 180 sections, and 6,000 shlokas. This Shastra, bereft of undue enlargement and easy to grasp and understand, has been composed by Kautilya in words the meaning of which has been definitely settled.